Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful day. And, yeah, we have some things to discuss here. Now, I know we all talk about this racism stuff and all that, and and how bad it is, but I want to say the left is just trying to keep it on this live stream that is constantly always being somewhat being faded away, but for whatever reason why they have to snap it back to life to make sure it's still relevant to where it's still a thing. And the one thing I have noticed so far is that not a lot of us talk about it in general because we just move on with our lives. But apparently, the people, the View, have a lot to say about this in terms of racism, or rather, what's going on with the cops, etc. And I don't know quite sure what they're talking about here because I'm pretty sure everybody faces some type of hit from the police at some point in time. And I know personally that it happened to one of my friends. Take a look at this video.
From the ground up, because clearly it doesn't matter if it's a white policeman or a black policeman, it is a problem in the police, in the policing itself. You know, seems things don't seem to make sense to people unless it's somebody they can feel or they can recognize. But how many times do we need to see white people also get beaten before anybody will do anything? I'm not suggesting that. So don't write us and tell me what a racist I am. I'm just asking, is that what people have to see in order to wake up and realize this affects us all?
Well, I have to say I haven't been able to bring myself to watch the video because I've seen so many of them. And as the mother of a black son who's 6'2" and 20 years old, my worst nightmare is what is probably on that video. And there's, studies that show that black people that continuously watch these videos suffer from PTSD, and it's called linked fate, because we see our loved ones in the video. But I think there are people that need to see the video. Those people that can just decide not to watch it because they know it's not going to happen to their kid.
I watched this video this weekend because, to Sarah's point, I thought as a white woman it was really important to watch it. And I'm glad heartbreaking and painful. And what it made me think of is the conversations both of you have had to have with your kids to say, you may have interactions with law enforcement, you have to be careful. Something that is hard for me to even understand, that is something that is just day to day in this country.
Now, here's the thing. I think that everybody has to fear the police in some regard, regardless of race. I don't think any particular race is free of this. As I've said before in my last video, is that you guys are pretty much the ones that are for this, that happened to that man, because why? You advocated for defunding the police, and therefore you forced the police department's hand to hire people that are below the average, I would say, requirements to join the police force, and this is what happens. So when you do stuff like this, it has negative consequences. Now, on to the whole police thing, or like where you have to tell your kids, listen, you want to think that it's just black people that are affected by this, but it's not. It's everybody of the sort of imagine here. We've had the government clamp down onto people, white people that have done absolutely nothing wrong, mostly coming from the January 6th riots, or insurrection they want to call it, and all this great stuff. And it's just not really, just not true that only black people are affected. I dare say black people are only affected more because of the crimes that they do. It's just being shown more and more. And you guys will go on to praise BLM, which is mostly held by, ironically enough, by mostly white people, and they're committing heinous amount of crimes, and they're not being punished. Same thing with the blacks as well, too, by the way. But what I'm getting at here is that everybody is affected by bad police behavior. Now, will I say that we need a police recall, or not a police recall, but maybe different way of funding the police? Now, I would say not defunding them, but maybe put in more actual solutions, like maybe put in more training, more laws to actually protect to maybe not protect the police so much. put in some actual things that will, maybe if the police were harmed, or were not harmed, but I guess you would say the police that were had to face more responsibility and stuff like that, and more negatives if they did something wrong, that they're punished for it, or that they will prevent us to it. But there's other ways than defunding the police, because obviously what we're seeing is defunding the police is not working. And as was my friend before, when I got into a wreck that I obviously created, it wasn't me that was put back in the police car, but my friend who was white that was put back behind a police car. I was out there standing in the rain, and my friend was put in the back of a police car, essentially, I want to say handcuffed. So he didn't do anything wrong, but I did, and he was the only one that was handcuffed. Weird, isn't it? Now, I want to say that the reality of these people think that only black people are affected by this is insanity. We don't have to tell our kids pretty much anything to what the police does. What we need to do is teach our kids to just not be criminals. I think that's the first thing. Here's one way we could stop this from happening. Maybe if we didn't have the black community and have such single mother homes, that would actually solve a lot of the problems. Maybe if we didn't have rap music that was constantly talking about killing women, raping women, violence, more violence, and drugs, maybe that may change our culture and the black culture as a whole, for some god apparent reason they want to listen to that crap. Maybe that might be a change to fix the problems that we have. There's a lot of things here, and what I've also realized as well is that a lot of the issues that we have today in society are actually connected. So if you get rid of one issue, you'll get rid of another issue, because that issue is connected to the one. So again, we get rid of all that bad music and stuff and what have you that is pretty much a huge thing in the culture, and trying to influence young youth. Then yeah, you may actually be able to change the dynamic of things. And before anybody says like, oh well, you're just trying to change music or whatever, or have freedom of expression, or like, what about video games and stuff like that? Okay, no. The difference is that video games have shown that it has very little influence onto kids or onto people in general. It has very, very little influence on the amount of violence. Whereas music has more of influence, and we're seeing it this time and time again, to where it's just constant bad influence, constant just horrible in that regard. So I'm taking that one statistic here, and I'm thinking, okay, well, why do we have so much crime? Well, the music is part of the reason, but then you also have to where you have single mother homes, where, again, which I think is a worse part in music in general. So when you combine these things, you get all these issues, and you have to tackle them. And the only way to tackle them is to talk about them. But of course, if we talk about single mother homes, or how the black community is full of single mother homes, you get backlash. You could be called a misogynist, you're called a racist and stuff like that, because we can't talk about these issues because, well, you get labeled all these things. And this is not particularly to the black community too. I think the white community and a lot of the communities are in danger of this too. But right now, the black community is at the centerfold of this. And this has a lot of things with a lot of black people interacting with the police officers and are having more greater interactions or committing more crime and stuff like that, to where this is the cause. And again, this is not really harming necessarily one particular race. It's just, it happens to be one race is interacting with police more often than another race, but both races are being inflicted by the cops horribly. Because we also know, you guys may not even know this, but the Devil Shaver, or I may believe his name, was, I would want to say, executed by the police quite horribly in that fact. It's very hard to watch, and this was a white guy, but that was never talked about in the media. Why? Because he's white, not black. And we're seeing this, we have to see that a lot of these people want to keep on talking about racism. If we keep on talking about it, it's never going to go away. One favorite quotes that I have from an actual actor from Hollywood, go figure, from Hollywood, is that from Morgan Freeman. It says, like, want to stop racism? Stop talking about it. And the thing is, the left just constantly wants to keep going with the racism over and over and over again. Maybe if we stop talking about it, maybe if we just ignored it entirely, we might actually not see any racism at all. Because, as I said, the left are keeping on a live stream. Does racism happen? Of course. But the left keeps on trying to portray it as a bigger deal than it really is. Alright guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, share, and take care.